How's it going, everybody? This is Soul Town Productions. We're going to talk about a deadly street war between two rival neighborhoods. These two neighborhoods are very notorious. If you grew up in Santa Ana like myself, you would have heard about these neighborhoods and their ongoing wars. Uh, they're very deadly neighborhoods, very respected. Uh, they are responsible for a lot of injunctions going on in their neighborhoods. They have made their neighborhoods very unsafe. Not just anybody could walk through those neighborhoods. Uh, and from my part, I'm just trying to show some respect and just enlighten people of what's been going on in Santa Ana. There's many different rival neighborhoods going at it all the time. Many people get victimized in their neighborhoods. Uh, it's a very sad situation, being from Orange County, having love for your city, having love for your people in general. It's sad seeing the youngsters going down a path that brings destruction. And I want to enlighten the world on what's been going on. Um, so I hope you guys can give me 2 minutes of your time. I hope I entertain and bring knowledge as well. So today we're going to talk about West Myrtle and Calle Townsend. And I'm going to start off with an article that I found from the Orange County Registry that happened in July 22, 2014, around 11:30 p.m. Maria V parked her car on West Myrtle Street in Santa Ana to pick up one of her children from a babysitter, which was her boyfriend's cousin. After another vehicle passed by, going in on the opposite direction, she heard a couple gunshots. Maria, her 10-year-old son, and the cousin, who was a nurse, approached the male victim and found he had been wounded. Surviving the shooting, at trial, Maria claimed she did not recognize the victim. At the preliminary hearing, she stated she had seen him around the Myrtle Street area, but had never spoken to him. Maria also testified at preliminary hearing that she grew up with the defendant. The defendant, who was her brother's friend, the Townsend Street Gang, claimed their neighborhood as its territory, and she and her four brothers belonged to the gang, hereafter Townsend Street Gang, or just Townsend, or Pueblo Manda. Her nickname was Cookie, and she implied that the petitioner also belonged to the gang. Testifying, his moniker or nickname was Bam Bam from Calle Townsend. Maria stopped hanging out with the gang several years before the shooting. She admitted her children's father had belonged to another gang for several years, the West Myrtle, a Townsend Street rival. Maria called 911 to report the shooting about 40 minutes after it occurred. Requesting anonymity, she told the 911 operator she saw the shooting. The assailants rode in a four-door blue Ford Explorer driven by Little Casper, a Townsend gang member later identified as Alberto Santana. Bam Bam, who Maria referred to as Julio Aguilar at one point in the 911 call, rode in the back seat and did the shooting. She physically described the men, noting petitioner had Townsend tattoos everywhere, including his neck and hands, and she provided an address for Santana. She told the operator she had seen the men in a group at 805 South Townsend after the shooting. Petitioner did not have Townsend tattoos on his hands. Also, the tattoos on his neck referred to Southwest, not Townsend. Maria also apparently misdescribed Santana as tall. Detective Charles Elms and his partner interviewed Maria 2 days after the shooting, and the prosecution played a recording of the interview for the jury. In the interview, Maria reluctantly admitted making the 911 call. After remarking why would she want to snitch on her brothers and baby daddy's neighborhoods, she told the officers she could not say any more because she was at risk of a lot of things, noting her family and everybody already knows I was there. She worried her name would appear in the paperwork, citing other witnesses who had been killed. Nonetheless, she identified photos of Little Casper and Bam Bam, and later admitted in court that Bam Bam was petitioner. She further described in the interview some details about the shooting, including that petitioner used a revolver, and she heard 6 shots. She told the officer she called 911 because she was angry. The shooting occurred in her children's presence, and the perpetrators had no respect for families and kids. After the shooting, she went straight over to the 805 Townsend Street address where a group had assembled and yelled at Petitioner. Petitioner was not apologetic, claiming only that he did not know she was there. A youngster told her to get the fuck out. At trial, Maria claimed people she could not identify provided her with the At trial, Maria claimed people she could not identify provided her with the information about the shooting, and she denied visiting Townsend Street to confront anyone. She claimed she made up the information about the shooting because she and Petitioner had some issues in the past, and she despised him because he had disrespected her children by calling them each a little effing turtle, which was it's a diss for West Myrtle that they've used. At trial, Maria claimed people she could not identify provided her with information about the shooting, and she denied visiting Townsend Street to confront anyone. Santana also previously had disrespected her. She testified she was under the influence of marijuana and alcohol the night of the shooting. She explained her account at trial was truthful and that she decided to tell the truth because her brother once had been convicted for something he did not do based on false testimony. Corporal Galen Diaz responded to the shooting. Diaz found the victim, Antonio M., sitting in a chair in an apartment courtyard. He had sustained 2 gunshot wounds, one on his upper chest and another on his upper left arm. Diaz knew Antonio was as a West Myrtle gang member and recognized West Myrtle gang tattoos on his body. Antonio was conscious and calling out angrily for paramedics. He generally refused to provide information about the shooting or to cooperate with officers. Officers found a bullet core or slug in the street. Diaz also identified West Myrtle gang graffiti nearby on a dumpster and on the ground. Diaz spoke on the phone with Maria shortly after the shooting, and she said she was present when the shooting occurred, identifying Bam Bam as the shooter. Diaz knew from prior field contacts that Petitioner moniker was Bam Bam. Gang detectives, accompanied by a SWAT Special Weapons and Tactics team, arrested Petitioner and executed a search warrant of his residence at 805 South Townsend on August 6, 2014. They impounded a dark green 2002 Explorer at an adjacent residence. Petitioner made several phone calls after he was booked at Santa Ana's jail. The prosecutor played partial recordings of 3 calls for the jury. In one call, while telling Jackie, "I'm effed," Petitioner asked if she remembered Cookie. Jackie responded, "Ah, effing female dog." But Petitioner noted she's the only one, fool. Jackie, however, reported that's not true. There's another also. Petitioner concluded by stating, "So, fool, you need to respect that. Be honest, fool, and tell them to get a hold of her, fool." In another call, when Jackie advised that calls and texts to her, the person Petitioner had directed her contact, had gone unanswered, Petitioner directed Jackie to go look for her. He told Jackie not to say anything, just go look for her and kick it with her. And when he asked Jackie cryptically, "And you know what that means, right?" Jackie responded, "F, man. Are you serious?" She exhaled, "OMG." When Petitioner affirmed, "Word, fool." Petitioner suggested, "Just go chill with her, fool, and blaze it, you know." He stated, "For reals, fool. If not, I'm get effed up," he noted. "She's the only one, babe. She was the only one, babe." Detective Elms testified as a gang expert concerning Santana Hispanic criminal street gangs. He detailed his training and experience and generally described gang practices and motivations. Familiar with the Townsend criminal street gang, he described its history, symbols, memberships, the turf, or territory the gang claimed, its primary criminal activities, and he confirmed Townsend's rivalry with the West Myrtle street gang. Elms explained that the shooting occurred in the heart of territory West Myrtle claimed. while Petitioner lived nearby less than a mile away in the center of Townsend turf. Elms noted he personally conducted many patrols in Townsend and West Myrtle street gang territory and testified his familiarity with these gangs stemmed from his personal contact with gang members while in the field. Interviews with residents who live in the neighborhoods and from speaking to other gang investigators, Elms drafted the search warrant that resulted in Petitioner's arrest and encountered Petitioner at the police station after his arrest, where Elms personally observed Petitioner's gang tattoos. Elms explained the meaning of terms and tattoos unique to gang culture. For example, references to baby in a gang parlance can mean a firearm. Elms explained that tattoos demonstrate allegiance to a gang, especially those displayed on areas of the body not covered by clothing. Elms explained that non-members typically do not obtain gang tattoos because doing so can be met with severe punishment. Indeed, in his training and many years of experience, Elms explained that non-members typically do not obtain gang tattoos because doing so can be met with severe punishment. Indeed, in his training and many years of experience, Elms only had heard of one non-member doing so, and the gang retaliated by cutting out the tattoos. Elms described how Petitioner's tattoos marked him as a Townsend member in photographs displayed to the jury. Petitioner had the word Southwest, a nickname for the Townsend gang. Tattoos on his neck, Townsend was tattooed on his chest. Petitioner also had his legs tattoos of the letter C, Calle meaning street, and T, Townsend, as well as Southwest. Similarly, Santana, the driver of the vehicle involved in the shooting, had S and W, signifying Southwest, tattooed on his shins. Elms was not familiar with anyone in the Townsend gang named Julio Aguilar. Elms searched the department internal records and did not find anybody with that name associated with Townsend. Elms knew Petitioner had a brother named Juan, but he was in prison. At the time of the shooting, Elms acknowledged testifying at the preliminary hearing that he previously believed Julio was Petitioner's brother, and that at the time he thought there was a Bam Bam Julio in the Townsend gang as Little Bam Bam. Elms opened Townsend's primary activities were narcotic sales and concealed firearm possession. He described several crimes constituting predicate acts committed by Townsend gang members. Elms conducted background research on Petitioner by reviewing 9 Street Terrorism Enforcement and Prevention Act notices, 5 field identification, and 14 police reports. For example, according to an April 9, 2014 step notice, Petitioner identified himself as Bam Bam from Townsend Street and stated he had been in the gang since he was 14 years old. Other step notices, FI cards, and police reports dated between 2005 and 2014 contain similar information. Based on this information and his interview with defendant, Elms concluded Petitioner was an active participant in the Townsend Street gang on the date of the shooting. Elms also opened new Townsend members engaged in a pattern of criminal activity based on a court document reflecting Petitioner previously admitted in court under penalty of perjury committing an act with the intent to benefit Townsend Street, which was a criminal street gang whose members who he knew had engaged in a pattern of criminal activity. Elms conducted similar research on Santana and concluded he was an active participant in Townsend Street on the date of the shooting, and identified himself as Casper, or Güero, meaning white guy or white boy. Elms also reviewed step notices and FI cards related to the victim Antonio, who had consistently admitted membership in West Myrtle. Elms agreed West Myrtle had other rivals, based on hypothetical questions reflecting the facts of the case. Elms noted that the tactical advantage of the shooter riding in the rear seat because the shooter would not have to shoot in the front of the driver. He opened the crime was committed for the benefit of, at the direction of, or in association with the street gang that the people in the car were from, noting it would benefit their reputation, it would benefit their status. He explained that gang members are expected to put in work, they're expected to commit crimes, and 2 gang members were together, associating when they entered the rival gang member territory to commit a crime. Elps opened the hypothetical crime was committed to assist and promote the gang, and benefited and promoted criminal conduct by members of the gang. The violent crime elevated the assailant status within the gang and promoted the gang as a whole. Elms, his partner, spoke with Petitioner at the station on the day of his arrest. After advising him of his rights, the prosecutor played a recording of the interview at trial. Petitioner initially denied ever riding in a car with Santana or entering West Myrtle street territory. He later admitted he might sometimes take a shortcut through that area to get to work at the swap meet. He then admitted hanging out with Santana and riding in Santana's sister's Explorer, but he denied riding in the Explorer with Santana, but then admitted doing so with Santana and Santana's girl on occasion. He acknowledged he might have passed through the Myrtle area, but not on Myrtle Street, earlier on the evening of the shooting around 6 or 7 p.m. So it's like I was saying, these two neighborhoods have just been in a cycle of destruction, and all it does is really just affect family. It affects their family, it affects their kids, it affects everybody, man. It's not worth it. What's the point? You know, you're fighting for a street that may not be yours forever. You know, look at gentrification. On my last video, the wars between LA and the gangs, they were successfully able to diminish a gang by the use of gentrification, by bringing different races into the neighborhoods, bringing in money to the neighborhoods where the people can't afford the rent no more. You know, nowadays most people that are from neighborhoods don't even live in their neighborhood. They have to drive miles away just to go to that neighborhood. You know, everything's changed. They forced neighborhoods to go into hiding. You know, you don't see neighborhoods like in the '90s no more where they were outside. 30 people outside kicking it. Now they have to be indoors. You know, uh, it's a very ruthless game. You know, it's at the end of the day, it's really not worth it. You know, if you have kids or you have family, you know, why are you gonna want to do that? Why are you gonna do that to your family? You know, it's not cool. The kids suffer, and it's a bad look all in all. So I found another article on the OC Register, and it happened uh, in Santa Ana, and it says police are investigating a Tuesday night shooting that left a 20-year-old man injured on the sidewalk at the 1900 block of West Myrtle Street, as reported by the OC Register. The victim was shot multiple times in the upper torso. 11 members of the West Side Myrtle gang, who are active in the area, convicted after a 2-year investigation by Santana police and federal agents under Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO charges. In May of 2007, according to the Los Angeles Times, that was the first time that the RICO Act was used to bust local gangbangers. The local drug trade in 2007 was controlled by Peter Ojeda, 64, whom federal authorities identified as a ranking Mexican mafia soldier in the Orange County. Ojeda oversaw many gangs, including the West Myrtle Street Gang. Santa Ana council member Michelle Martinez had admitted to selling drugs when she was 17, and allegedly she too was working for gangs affiliated with Ojeda. The LA Times also reported in 2007 that, in quote, according to court records, a gang controlled an area between the 1900 and 2200 blocks of West Myrtle Street in Santa Ana. Using violence and intimidation to protect its turf, drug dealers were required to pay a tax to sell narcotics in the gang's territory. The gang, in turn, would pay the M a tax for narcotic sales by its members. Memberships in the West Myrtle gang was by invitation only, according to court documents. Some members were jumped in by other gangsters who beat them up so neophytes could prove their toughness. Others were given a pass if they grew up in the gang's territory or if they had family members in the gang. When the arrests were announced in 2005, law enforcement officials said the gang had been largely dismantled. Apparently, the West Myrtle Street Gang is back in action. And that was just a short article about for a while I guess there was silence in West Myrtle, and they had came back, and there was more deaths. And in Orange County, California, Santa Ana, a 36-year-old convicted robber and gang member opened fire on a father and son in an unprovoked gang challenge in Santa Ana. A prosecutor told jurors Tuesday while the defendant attorney said the police arrested the wrong man. John Salgado is charged with firing on George Lopez, an auto body shop owner, and his then 16-year-old son about 9:30 p.m. on January 6, 2017. At 1909 West Myrtle Street, Senior Deputy District Attorney Stephen Cornwell said, the Lopez family had dinner with a friend at the address earlier that evening before George Lopez went to pick up his son. Harold, who was over at his girlfriend's home, Cornwell said. Harold Lopez, who had his learner's permit, was driving the family's Mini Cooper when they returned to 1909 West Myrtle Street and double parked. Salgado, who was wearing a GPS device because he was on parole, approached them and said, "Where are you from?" A common challenge from gang members, Cornwell said. He pulled a gun from his waistband and racked the slide as he walked toward Harold and George, Cornwell said. Harold immediately hit the gas, Cornwell said. Their assailant got off 3 rounds, which struck the rear window of the car, the prosecutor said. Their assailant got off 3 rounds, which struck the rear window of the car. George Lopez told police the attacker had a unique tattoo under his eye. George and Harold Lopez picked Salgado out of a photo lineup after police added a tattoo for all the suspects in the mug shots. Harold Lopez's mother, who was waiting to be picked up at the time of the shooting, also picked Salgado out of a photo lineup after seeing him run from the scene. The GPS device records show Salgado was at the scene of the shooting. Salgado was arrested on January 24, 2017, after police attempted to pull him over and he led the officers on a short pursuit. During the pursuit, Salgado threw the gun used in the shooting out of the window. Defense attorney Fred Machinelli accused law enforcement of confirmation bias and failing to ask the victims what sort of gang sign their attacker used before he opened fire. Harold Lopez told the police the shooter had a full head of hair, enough to comb it over. Mr. Salgado doesn't grow much hair at the top of his head, and the evidence will show he was not growing much hair then either. The defense attorney said his client is guilty of having a firearm and being a gang member in possession of a firearm, but he's innocent of all the other charges. Salgado is charged with 2 counts each of attempted murder, assault with a semi-automatic firearm, and single counts each of carrying a loaded firearm in public, shooting at a vehicle, and prohibited person owning ammunition and 2 counts of possession of a firearm by a felon. All felonies. He also faces sentencing enhancements of the discharge of a firearm, attempted premeditated murder, and gang activity. Salgado pleaded guilty in January 2007 to robbery and assault with a deadly weapon and admitted a sentencing enhancement for a gang activity and was sentenced to 10 years in prison, according to court records. And that's 10 years you're never getting back. That's 10 years you're never getting back. If you're 22, you're not coming out to 32. It's ruthless. There's no point. In 10 years, if you stay clean in 10 years and you work a good job and you just focus, in 10 years, man, you could have a house, you could have cars, you could have a pretty girlfriend, you could have a few kids. You could have all that in those 10 years. You could be a disciplined man. You don't need a gang to be a man. You could be a man for your people in society. And it's just sad. I hope the youngsters wake up. And I hope they're able to understand what they're doing. Because it is a sad world, and it's only going to get worse. And what's worse is when you have many different rival neighborhoods surrounding you. You know, it's like you can't be safe. You can't go outside for a walk. You know, you can't do nothing with your life, man. You can't even be outside chilling or nothing. You know, because you gotta be in soldier mode 100% of the time. You know, I found another article that pertains to the West Myrtle street gang. Uh, but this one is a war against another neighborhood in Orange County called Middleside, and it's a very interesting article, you know. And so in September of 1995, a member of West Myrtle was killed by a rival gang, Middleside. West Myrtle then retaliated by shooting a gang member from Middleside named Jesse Ortega. A day after that, several members and friends of West Myrtle were congregated at a house in Santa Ana when shots rang out. One of the West Myrtle's members jumped into his black Mustang, lacking its T-tops, and raced over to where Herrera was socializing with his girlfriend, Cheryl Dorado. Herrera climbed into his front passenger seat, telling Dorado that his homeboys were after the guys. They took off for a known Middleside hangout. The Mustang approached the home of Kennedy's mother, and Middleside members could see two people in the car. The driver and a passenger holding a gun. 3 shots were fired from the car as they drove by the first time. One bullet struck an 11-year-old boy, scraping his right arm. Another bullet struck a man in the left shoulder, breaking a bone. The Mustang then made a U-turn and returned for a second pass, during which approximately 10 additional shots were fired. No further injuries were inflicted, but 3 parked vehicles were struck by bullets. A citizen flagged down Santa Ana police officer Martha Shari and pointed out a black Mustang as the car responsible for the drive-by. The brake lights were on, and it appeared to Shari that it had just pulled into a driveway. As she watched the driver leap from the car and fled despite Shari's commands to stop. She then arrested Herrera, the front seat passenger. Herrera told Shari that he didn't do anything, but 2 semi-automatic handguns and the Luger 9mm and a Beretta 25 caliber were found on the Mustang's front floorboard. Herrera's hands were tested, revealing gunshots residue. Bullet casings found at the scene matched the Luger and the Beretta. Herrera was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, 2 counts of attempted premeditated murder, 2 counts of assault with a firearm, 3 counts of shooting at an unoccupied vehicle, and 1 count each of discharging a firearm at an inhabited dwelling, and street terrorism. In addition, the jury found that Herrera personally used the firearm that he committed the 2 attempted murders with, premeditation and deliberation, and that all special allegations were true as alleged. He was sentenced to a life term for 1 count of attempted premeditated murder, enhanced with a 4-year term for using a gun, and then a consecutive life term for the second attempted murder charge. Likewise enhanced with a 16-month term for the gun use and an 8-month term for the gang enhancement under Section 186.22, Subdivision V1. The sentence was on the conspiracy to commit murder stayed pursuant to Section 654. All of the terms were ordered to run concurrently with Herrera's sentences and the attempted murder accounts. Herrera contends the evidence is insufficient to support the verdict that he committed attempted premeditated murders. He relies upon the off-cited test found in People v. Anderson, which sets forth 3 categories of evidence for a reviewing court to consider with respect and premeditation and deliberation. So, some of these wars will never end. They run too deep. The pain is too deep. You know, when they kill one of your homeboys, they're basically attacking your home. They're attacking your family. It is a street gang, but you also got to see it as a bunch of kids that grew up together that would never let anybody touch their homeboys. And the blood runs thick, you know. Some of these gangs are generational. Their great grandfathers came from it. Their fathers, now their sons. Now they have sons, and it's a generational thing, you know. More kind of like a generational curse, you could say. You know, You live by the gun, you die by the gun. You can't survive it. You might survive a shooting, but you won't survive the jail. You know, you might survive the jail, but you're never getting out. So you're basically a walking dead man. And that's no kind of life. There's no point to live like that. You could be down for your neighborhood, protect your neighborhood. You could really do that. That don't mean you gotta victimize other people. You know? But those are my 2 cents. You know, everything I say is just opinion when it comes from my mouth. If it's an article, it's an article based on facts, based on investigations. Everything I'm speaking on is public knowledge. You can find it online. I hope you like this video. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know if you guys wanted me to talk about a specific neighborhood or a specific topic. I hope you guys have a good day. Stay safe, man.
When are you who's gonna ever learn? If you keep on banging, you're gonna get burned. All this wanna be bad and tough, strolling around and getting all shot up. You better wise up, start open your eyes, cause what you're all doing is just a waste of time. Even y'all's mamas try to tell you right, but you still shoot each other and fight. Just look at you, who are you? Tell me what you're gonna do. You don't know cause you're all confused. Your mind is lost, it was never there, cause you put yourself up on gang warfare. When it comes to think, you don't even dare. Half of y'all have looking upstairs, you've been ripped up, shot up so many times. All y'all look like Frankenstein. Hey!
Gangsters, big bad gangsters, why don't you stop shooting each other up? Gangsters, big time gangsters, all you're doing is messing your lives up.
Some of y'all out there 21, still trying to gang bang just for fun. You don't even really want to grow up. All you wanna do is remain a dumb nut. Don't think about a job or education. You got your mama so worried she taking medication, praying hard every day and night. She hope you're not arrested or in a gang fight, but you still refuse to see the light. You shot one of your rivals and took his life. Now your buddy's marred for a hit. Each time you get away, you think you slick. One of these days you're gonna learn. If you keep on banging, you got to get burned. Now they're looking for you, but you weren't there. So they shot your mama and now she's dead. What a shame!
Gangsters, big bad gangsters, why don't you stop shooting each other up? Gangsters, big time gangsters, all you're doing is messing your lives up. Gangsters,
Bang
big
bang,
bad gangsters,
bang bang.
why don't you stop shooting each other up? Gangsters, big time gangsters, all you're doing is messing your lives up.
Breakdown.
Hey, you down there, buddy, drop the gun and put your hands up in the air.
Wait a minute, y'all don't know who I am.
Man, get in the car. This is Officer Riley. I'm on the scene of a gang-related incident. We've captured one suspect and we also have a possible DOA.
Put your guns down. Hey!
Gangsters, big bad gangsters, why don't you stop shooting each other up?
Why don't you just stop?
Gangsters, big time gangsters,
Tough gangsters.
all you're doing is messing your lives up.
Don't you know it's time to grow up?
Gangsters,
Bang
big bad
bang,
gangsters,
bang bang.
why